Thank you for being here with me today. Today we'll talk about how to optimize your sales strategy with Heroku, Salesforce, and artificial intelligence. And to begin, as always, we remind everyone that we are a publicly traded company, so please only make purchasing decisions based on products and services that are readily available. Thanks. So my name is Xiaolin. I am a software engineer on the data team here at Heroku. For those who are unfamiliar, Heroku is a platform as a service. It is the fastest way from an idea to a URL. Heroku was one of the first platforms as a service. We basically wrote the book on cloud application development with the 12-factor methodology. Here at Salesforce, we offer a variety of solutions from no-code to pro-code to build any kind of application on Salesforce. Heroku belongs in the pro-code category. The Heroku approach makes cloud-native applications simple. In traditional cloud application development, companies would need to allocate the majority of their resources into building and maintaining their infrastructure and operations. So that's your AWS, your containers, your databases, your logging, your event streaming, all of the heavy infrastructure work. With the Heroku approach, we take care of that for you. We also offer features like manage Postgres, manage Kafka, manage Redis, dynamic auto-scaling to handle different loads so that your businesses can allocate the majority of your resources into building the services that run your business, the meats and potatoes of your business. All right, so you might be wondering, why is a software engineer here talking to me about sales? Well, let's begin with a story. Before I switched careers into software engineering, I was an entrepreneur, which was the buzzword of the 2010s. And I started early. Fresh out of school, I packed my entire life into a traveling backpack I got from Goodwill for about $10. I got a one-way ticket to South Korea, a country I'd never been to before, didn't speak a word of the language. I'm Chinese, not Korean, very different cultures. And I had a few $100s to my name and one Bitcoin, which at the time was worth $600. And I sold that Bitcoin that year to fund a business venture. So hindsight's really 20/20 on that one. And what I lacked in experience, I made up for with ambition. And I was a one-woman army. I just had an idea and I went out and I gathered business intelligence any way I could, Google, talking to people, just kind of threw different strategies and ideas at a wall to see what would stick, what would sell. And I think I did all right. I fed myself for about 1.5 years that way. But I'm here talking to you now instead of sitting on my own private island in the Bahamas, so I wasn't super successful. But unlike me, you won't have a foresight problem because you'll have the power of Salesforce, Heroku, and artificial intelligence on your side to guide your decision making. So what is sales really? You want to acquire customers and you want to retain them. And if you're a Salesforce customer, you already have a lot of data about your customers. So how do we unlock the hidden potential of that data? What else can that data tell you? Well, the key is to identify patterns and trends within your data. And by identifying existing patterns and trends, you can use that to anticipate customer needs, to anticipate signs of churn before it happens. When you get a new lead, you can kind of estimate how successful that lead could be based on existing customers with similar profiles. And you can identify exactly what sales and marketing strategies might best fit this customer profile. And it's always just better to have more data and more insight into your customers. All right, so what's the magic? What's the actual technology behind the hype? Have you heard of vector similarity search? I see some engineers nodding their heads. Vectors, you may have encountered them in algebra at some point. A vector is essentially a line that connects 2 points, and the vector measures the distance between those 2 points. And in a vector database, data is represented in a multi-dimensional space. So in a traditional 2-dimensional space, you have the x-axis and you have the y-axis. And so you have 2 numbers, the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. In a multidimensional space, you have many dimensions and many numbers, and these vectors are represented as vector embeddings, which is a list of hundreds of numbers. So as you can see in this graph, that's how it might look like if we were to visualize it. So another way to explain this and how this could work, say you have a box of toys and you're trying to find the toy that is the closest to an Astro plush. In a traditional search, you might find all the toys that are a stuffed animal, all the toys that are brown, all the toys that are soft, all the toys that are small, all the toys that are wearing a costume. And this could be a lengthy and iterative process. With vector similarity search instead, every single toy is assigned a unique identifier, the list of numbers that I mentioned that identifies its precise position in a multidimensional space. And in order to find the toys that are the most similar to Astro, we measure the distance between the vector embedding of every other toy to the position of Astro and list it in order. And you can very easily and quickly see which toys are most similar to Astro that way. So let's set a more concrete use case. Say I have a lot of customer data and I know that I've had success with customers in the banking industry. And so I want to find all of the customers that are in industries that are similar to banking so that I can reuse my successful sales and marketing strategies. So let's begin by creating a Heroku application and adding the Heroku Postgres add-on. As I mentioned, Heroku manages infrastructure for you, so Heroku Postgres is a managed version of Postgres. And I'm not exaggerating, it's very easy. You can do it on the CLI or via the UI. And after that, you can either populate the database directly, or you can pull in your Salesforce data using another add-on called Heroku Connect. And Heroku Connect is, again, you just connect it to your Salesforce data and it will automatically create a table for you in the Heroku Postgres database that we've created and populate it with the Salesforce data that you've selected. Here's a quick little video demo that is not going to play, but it just basically shows you that process. And it took me a few minutes for that to happen. Live demos, I know. All right. So now we have a database, and there are only specific versions of Postgres that will support PG Vector because it's a newer technology, but you can find it's listed on devcenter.heroku.com which versions of Postgres will support it. And you can turn it on. You can enable the feature with, is this a laser pointer? Create extension vector. And then, as I mentioned, Heroku Connect automatically will generate a table in your database and populate it with your Salesforce data. And I've chosen to create a separate table to store my vector embeddings because for this demo, I was getting experimental. I was dropping the table a lot, trying different algorithms. But when you actually do this, you could also pop it in as a field onto your existing data table. There's many ways to build a schema. All right. So now we have the pieces that are falling into place. We have the database of the data we want to query. It's vector enabled, PG vector enabled, and we have a table to store our vector embeddings. So let's generate our vector embeddings. And this is a piece where artificial intelligence comes in. There are a variety of tooling that you can use to generate these embeddings. For those who are unfamiliar, Hugging Face is an incredible resource for machine learning and artificial intelligence. There's a variety of libraries and frameworks and different things to explore. And there's obviously paid options as well with OpenAI, and you can train your own machine learning model as always. And so you run your data. For the simple purposes of this demo, I'm only running in through the industry fields, but you can also run your entire object through and create an embedding for the entire object. And the embedding that comes out, as I mentioned before, is a list of numbers that map this piece of data's precise position in a multidimensional space. All right, and so this is a sample code that I wrote to populate the database I chose to use the sentence transformers model with the sentence transformers framework with a built-in machine learning model that they provided. I ran the industries that I had through it. It generated embeddings for me, and then I wrote code to pop it right into my database for me. Great, so now we have all of the pieces. We have the data that we want to query. And it's in a database that has PG Vector enabled. We have generated all of the embeddings and put it into our database, and now we search. So on the left is the SQL query that I wrote in order to run this search. The little double-sided arrow basically tells SQL to calculate the distance between the query on the left and the results of the query on the right. And if you remember in my Astro example, the way that vector similarity search works is essentially we grab the piece of data that we want, which is every industry, the industry of banking, and then we look at every other piece of data that we have, and we look at its industry, we calculate the distance between that industry's embedding to banking, and then we rank our data by the closeness of that industry to banking. And I have limited the results to only 10. And as you can see, it was able to find 10 accounts that are in the financial services industry, which the algorithm identified as the most similar to banking. Great. So now that you've seen what vector similarity search can accomplish, and hopefully I've done a good job of explaining it to you so you understand how it works. And now let's think about what other questions we can answer with this technology. We can figure out which companies are the most similar to our biggest customer. What accounts are similar to accounts that we've lost? What accounts are similar to ones that we have that are successful? How can we group our customers into different segments? What are some notable overlaps? We can estimate the success rates of strategies, even estimate revenue based on data that we have, and more. You can get creative with this. So I ran through that kind of fast, but I hope that you've learned something today about how vector similarity search works and how quickly it is to set a system up with the power of Heroku Postgres, pull in your Salesforce customer data, and run it through a machine learning model to generate vector embeddings and create a vector database that enables you to run smarter and faster queries and unlock the hidden potential of your data. Thank you very much for your time. And here are some of our other events at Heroku today. And if you have more questions and would like to talk more about this topic or learn more about Heroku and what we can offer, we have a booth down at Moscone West on the lower level. Great, and the first 4,000 attendees who provide feedback can get a $5 Starbucks gift card. And if you don't want that gift card, you can give it to me. All right, thank you so much. Have a good day.